Call to order the Monday, October 17, 2022 meeting of the City of Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission. Would you conduct a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sean Cross.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Here.
Vice Chair Doug Neely.
Here.
And Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Here. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. Do we have any, either in person or remotely?
Nope.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the discussion items. The first item is the amendment to RestorCap's existing letter of interest. Who would like to summarize?
I'll take this. Yep, thank you. So evening, Urban Renewal Commission members. So tonight we're presenting before you an extension request for the existing LOI with RestorCap with the Urban Renewal Agency for the identification of mitigation opportunities within the Cove to improve water quality, as well as to identify funding. As you may recall, when we started this about a year ago, the intent was to look at what are ways that we can improve water quality and habitat around Clackamet Cove, specifically trying to deal with a couple of blue-green algae that we've seen during some of our low-flow hot summers that we've had throughout the years. Through that work, it began with looking at what are the habitat restoration opportunities around the Cove, and as well as what are some of the potential restoration credits that could be sold in order to fund that project. RestorCap's done an incredible amount of work trying to understand what's happening with the Cove, why we're seeing these algae blooms, what we can do to improve the water quality and the habitat, specifically trying to lower the temperature within that water body. At the same time, trying to identify fixes that don't require long-term continued maintenance associated with that project. As they've worked through that project, they've identified at our last meeting, they gave a presentation of some of the mitigation that they've identified that they feel could be implemented on that site. The other component was that as we're trying to balance restoration habitat with public access, which we think is a desirable outcome around that water body, both from access to the water and access around the Cove, the ability to obtain restoration credits is very limited associated with that. So then it became, how do you fund an approximately estimated $14 to $16 million project? And the discussion now is turning around, how do we use that upland development property for the private development to help fund the mitigation work around the Cove? So as part of that discussion and the presentation last time was a desire to move forward and continue the work to refine the permitting process, the mitigation improvements, and the financial component of that agreement. And we did provide you with a recommendation to extend the LOI for 1 year. So on Friday, I was contacted by a potential developer of the upland private property component of the Cove. And with that, it was very preliminary, and the details are limited at this point. Essentially, what the essence of it was a large developer that can bring cash on hand to build the private component of the property. So the approximately 244 apartments that were previously approved through the Urban Renewal Agency and the land use process. With that was a desire to continue to invest in Cove habitat restoration. I think everyone's in agreement that improving water quality and habitat around that resource is imperative, not only from a biological standpoint, but from a financial and livability standpoint. Part of the discussion, I have nothing in writing, is a commitment or an opportunity to invest $1 million a year for 7 years into Cove habitat restoration work. Now, I bring this up with limited details, and no due diligence work has happened. Like I said, this conversation happened on Friday. So tonight, we would like to discuss, as part of the LOI, RestorCap has the ability to approve, essentially the LOI says that the Urban Renewal Agency cannot sell or lease any properties around the cove without a written approval from RestorCap. So I'd asked for a discussion tonight about the possibility of amending the LOI in an interim basis to continue it for 60 days, which would allow staff the ability to do the due diligence work on this request that has come in, to understand it much, much more than we do at this time. I apologize for the lateness of this coming in. It was unexpected completely. But as everyone's aware, and we've talked about before, as labor costs have gone up, material costs have gone up, interest rates have gone up. If it is truly an opportunity to bring in an all-cash construction project on a site as difficult as the one we're dealing with is for private development, there are benefits to that. I do worry that in the current climate, the ability to get funding on a project such as the Cove private development side is challenging, especially relative to where we were 1 year ago or 2 years ago. So I bring this forward for your discussion, realizing that there is not a lot of information at this time that I can give you as specifics. And, but I also didn't want to miss a potential opportunity if there was one that could fulfill where we're at with RestorCap, which is needing to find private side development funding to do the work because of the limitation of the ability to sell credits on the project. So I'll go ahead and stop there. I know I dropped a lot on you here. I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
I'll speak and I'll turn it over to the group for questions, and then I'll give my thoughts at the conclusion. I think Mr. Conkle was correct in bringing this belated proposal to our attention. I think it's in keeping with his fiduciary duty to the city and the urban renewal. I'm going to open it up initially to comments or questions from my co-commissioners, and then I have my own thoughts that I would like to contribute. So is there anyone here that wants to, understanding that at this point, there's very little information that can be furnished to you, so your questions, they will not be evaded. They simply have not had time to delve into the details. Commissioner Smith.
First question is regarding RestorCap. Most of all the conversation has been about restoration. What is RestorCap's ties to future development that we don't know about? And how that affects this other question. The other thing is, I hope we don't, as an Urban Renewal Commission, think that, oh, if we find a new developer, we hope they just build exactly what we had planned to build in the first place that fell apart and was a disaster anyway. I hope we're going to relook at that and expect better. I hope we're not going to say, oh, we're going to just build apartments like we were going to, because I feel we dodged a bullet by not building those apartments. Because remember, that's not what was supposed to be built there in the first place. So we've downgraded this project so low that I hope when we think about what we're going to do on that piece that still exists, not developed, that we really expect a higher bar than we did before. And also, I'll remind everybody that the first phase was not done well either. The first phase is supposed to have retail on the entire first floor of Main Street. It is still vacant, and they have no plans to rent it out as retail. we have really screwed up major time and time again. And I don't know how much longer we're just going to keep lowering the bar. And several people on this commission and as a majority keep voting for things, even when I kind of warn against the things. We haven't got an update on the property at the bottom of Singer Hill. That's, as far as I know, completely fallen apart, but we haven't got an update on that. And I told you it would. So we really, if we want to do better for this city and expect our citizens to actually support urban renewal in this town, do you think they're going to do it when we keep playing this game? They're not going to do it. This town expects more, and we got to raise the bar more, and we can't be tying in and doing, things behind the scenes that we aren't fully aware of. So what connection does RestorCap have to development that we don't know about?
So representatives from RestorCap are on the phone. My understanding is I am not aware of any tie to any development, private side, upland development with RestorCap at this time, but
They have no ability to give input on that? Have they been told they have input on that?
If I may suggest, perhaps the entire commission can tender their thoughts, and then RestorCap can respond to all. A moment.
It's fine, yeah.
I saw Commissioner McGriff's hand up initially.
Yes,
Please.
yeah, I was waiting for Commissioner Smith. Yes, I would concur, but I'll take a little bit of a different tack, Commissioner Smith. I was not party to the original documents and things that we did with the Cove project. So as a community member, and still am a community member, my expectation was that what we saw was going to get built, and obviously I was disappointed when that did not happen. I think that we have a case here right now of, we've been presented with a frog, and the frog is asking us to kiss it so they can turn into a prince. And I'm being humorous about it because I want to lighten the mood just a little bit, but I'm not really feeling comfortable with something that's vague, and I understand the position staff's in. You don't know anything either. It's very vague. I think we talked last time at our meeting that we said we wanted to define what the Cove project was, and if we were going to go back to the original concept, which was having the amphitheater and the open space and all of that, then we would go back to that if that's what we chose, and that was what we were sticking with, and we were not going to further dilute that project any further. I agree with you, Commissioner Smith, about the retail. We should be putting somebody's foot to the fire to get that accomplished, because that was part of the conditions. I would be interested in hearing the proposal, but again, as I said, I'm concerned about taking the first offer because they're saying, oh, we're Oregon City. Oh, this is great. We'll accept anybody. We don't know anything about these people. I'm not going to be bowled over by, I have lots of cash dangling in front of me. My concern is that I don't want us to give up any ability to say what's going to happen down there. And if there's a clause in the statement for RestorCap that says that we can't sell or do anything without them doing, we need to go into this jointly. It cannot be one party saying you can't do this. We need to jointly, if we go into this agreement with RestorCap, we have to jointly agree to do this. We cannot have one party telling us that we can't sell it or we can't do something else with the property. It's got to be mutually agreed upon about how we proceed with the property. I'm supportive of restoration. I know that it's going to be very, very expensive. And I think we were talking about doing the shotgun approach to all options were on the table to look at how we might be able to accomplish this. And that includes, grants or talking to the feds or whatever the list we had from last time. So I do agree with you, Commissioner Smith. I think we need to go back to the original plan, which is what our expectation was as a community, and that's what we should do. But we also need to go back and review that again. Some of the people on the commission have not had an opportunity to look at that, and I think it would behoove us to take the 60 days that we need to basically flesh out who this suitor is, see whether we do want to kiss the frog, or we want to go out and, you know, look for other frogs, so to speak, or if there are other frogs out there. But I think we need to go back and determine what we want as a commission on behalf of our community for this property. I don't want somebody dictating to us what they want to do. I'm not saying they were, I'm just saying we don't want to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Neely.
The RestorCap project is one for restoration. I have assumed in the process of that restoration, they're talking about cutbacks in the bank and so forth, and that will essentially give the cut and fill opportunities for another developer to come in and put in the apartments, the kinds of things that we were talking about originally. Rocky's concern, whether somebody who's working hand in hand, I think is a legitimate one, but I've never had the impression that they were going to be involved in the actual development of any apartments going there, but that we would have the benefit of having a buildable piece of property at the end because of the cut and fill opportunities. I don't know if I'm wrong or not.
I think this gets back to, there's the restoration plan,
Yes.
and then there's how do we fund it? And originally, we were hoping to be able to utilize selling restoration credits to help fund the restoration work. Balancing restoration, the opportunities, the desire for multi-use in the area, the likelihood and the ability to capture enough restoration credits to cover the cost of the mitigation work is minimal. So as we've done this due diligence, it's become apparent that that's really not a viable funding option. So now the conversation is changing to, you know, RestorCap needs to be a part of the upland private development in order to capture those funds to invest into the work. So the conversation has changed into how it would be funded.
The problem,
Chair recognizes Commissioner Smith.
so there has been conversations with staff with RestorCap about developing.
There has been a presentation to the Urban Renewal Commission at the last meeting.
Right, but that did not imply in any sense that RestorCap was tied to the discussion of a developer and whether they would have say in that or any of that. None of that's been brought to us.
I guess it was.
Has there been any conversations with staff and RestorCap about development specifically or developers specifically?
No. There is a financial model that has been proposed and was presented at the last Urban Renewal Commission that the upland development, that RestorCap is going to have to be a part of that they are going to find the developer because any profits are going to need to be invested into the funding of the restoration work. No, I am unaware, and I've had zero conversations with RestorCap about who a developer is, what the specific financials are. We are at a very, very high level of a funding model to fund the work with the assets that we have available to us.
Any other questions or comments from my fellow commissioners? Okay,
Like a yes or a no? That was a no. He said no.
I didn't hear any other questions.
The question was what
Oh.
Commissioner Smith asked is, has RestorCap been involved in any development discussions? And the answer was no.
Correct, no. With staff
Right.
that I'm aware
But
of.
did the rest of this Urban Renewal Commission understand that RestorCap was going to have a say in the development that comes? I mean, to me, that was new to me.
Well, only in the sense of how the restoration would affect the development. That was my understanding, but not.
I think it
not
may
what-
be more specific
Yeah,
than
but
that.
it was general. That was my understanding was general.
And if it is more specific than that, then the staff has to answer to this commission because we're unaware of these ties.
I can say that I'm going to ask specific questions that may shed light on this, and I'm glad that the RestorCap personnel are on hand. They may want to submit their answers in writing at the conclusion of this meeting. Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you, Chair. This vagueness and confusion is contributing to my weariness here as well.
Should.
As it comes, for me, with urban renewal here, it comes back to the key term of mixed use. It's something that we in Oregon City have been striving for a very long time. We've been failing at it. As Commissioner Smith noted, with that property at the, is 10th and Main or whatever, I opposed that because I didn't think it added to the mixed use, and I just worry about getting our hands tied without more information as to what we will be obligated to do when it comes to a potential future developer. And so I'm just adding my voice of concern there to those of Commissioners Smith and McGriff.
I believe it's my turn. So my questions are going to be more specific, and my concerns, as you know, I was on leave of absence when many of these things were discussed, so if I'm catching up, please forgive me. I think we're at a point, when I read these things, it appears to me that we, as the Urban Renewal Commission and our city staff, does not quite understand the RestorCap business model. And obviously, they state that they're a business. RestorCap is in the business of developing properties. And when we look at these two proposals, one of which is in its infancy, and we have very little information, including who it may involve, the questions that come to my mind are, what are the sources of income on this project as RestorCap defines them? And I believe they make a statement on that. But more importantly, I know they spoke about the sale of mitigation credits. Who owns those credits prior to the sale? And upon the sale, what percentage of those credits or that cash flow does RestorCap keep, and what percentage goes to the city? And those are important to me because they talk about a targeted figure that it could potentially generate, but that's a potential figure, not a firm number. The thing that really was in question to me, and there's two questions. What is the time frame within which those credits will be generated and converted to cash for the city to use? But one of the things that bothered me was the role that RestorCap has in the selection of a developer. And it almost appears, and I'm going to invite RestorCap to clarify this, that they have sole authority to determine which developer they do business with. And I don't want to abdicate that responsibility to this commission because we are those people who are responsible for that to our community. So my question is that a correct statement? Is RestorCap in a position to select the developer and the city is not, or their renewal is not? And in fact, does RestorCap have a favored developer based on their experience in the past? So what we're here tonight to do, and I don't want to revisit ancient history, although I agree with many of the comments, including the fact that the original development was supposed to have retail on the first floor, thus generating vertical tax credits, which they should not enjoy if that didn't happen. But I don't want to revisit that stuff tonight. What we're here to do tonight is, do we wish to consider, before we enter into this agreement, do we wish to get those clarifying statements, particularly about the business model, and give city staff 60 days, a 60-day extension to vet both these proposals and do our due diligence, which we must do as a commission and as a staff, to be responsible to the city? What I don't want is a situation where, first of all, I'm not going to forego my authority to participate in the choice of a project and a vendor to do it if it comes to be. And I don't want to get into a situation where we've got a three-way exchange going, where we have a developer operating independently of RestorCap, and they will or will not work together, and the city is in the middle. That's a recipe for ongoing legal action. I want no part of that. If a potential developer wants to meet with RestorCap ahead of time, or their representatives want to do that, hammer out a proposal where we're dealing with one joint entity, that's something I would entertain. But in the meantime, staff and this commission have the responsibility of vetting both these offers, who's making them, and what the quality of each is. So, speaking as chair and being only one vote among others up here, I think the 60-day extension gives us, 60-day period, gives us that time to evaluate and vet both these proposals. Do I have any comment from my co-commissioners? Do I have any comment from those attending on behalf of RestorCap?
RestorCap.
This is Rob Maronite, president of RestorCap.
And I'll counsel you to speak as loudly as you can because of the sound quality here. I want to be able to hear what you say.
Yeah, so I'll attempt to answer some of these questions. The first one is that we have absolutely no connection with any developer whatsoever. This proposal came to us about 2 hours ago, maybe a little bit, 2.5 hours ago. So this is new to us as well. Our business model is to do restoration projects and to figure out a way to sell credits. In this case, we can't sell credits as has been described. And we are hoping that we would get some sort of profit and business out of the development. We have vague ideas of what the development would look like, and what we have been trying to do was minimize the density at the on the upland development to see what the minimum amount of development could be in order to fund the restoration of the cove. And beyond that, we really haven't gotten too far because we haven't talked to any developers. We haven't done that kind of economic work.
Feedback?
Yep, there it goes. Yikes.
Can you hear me?
Continue on. We had a momentary feedback problem.
Okay. Anyway, so that's where we are, and this is in, this is because everyone wants the restoration of the cove, but the cove, as we've talked about earlier, can't generate the credits that would fund that restoration. So that is dependent on the development of it. Having a cash-rich developer come at the, just very, very recently, this is all very new to us, and we like you really have no idea how that would end up working. Although we are willing to talk with anybody to see if it could work.
Well, sir, I've posed very specific questions that I think we need very specific answers to, which we're not going to do in this public meeting tonight. I would invite you as president of RestorCap to answer those questions. I think the question before us tonight is, does this commission want a 60-day period within which to evaluate these two potential offers and give you the opportunity to potentially speak with this developer either directly or via representatives? Would you object to this 60-day period to allow us to do our due diligence, and in fact, you do your due diligence?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, we would, like I said, this is all news to us, so we would have to figure out how that would work. I will say this, one thing of $1 million a year for 7 years is my first reaction to that is that may not work for us. And if, in which case we would have to work with the city and work with the developer or whoever it is to find the other sources of funding.
Well, my personal feeling is you're being invited to engage in that discussion, to come up with a solution that's satisfactory to all parties, yourself, a potential developer whom we've not, none of this is in its infancy. We've got no details, and we also have to do ours. So I don't know what your position is in engaging in that discussion, but I guess the matter at hand tonight is for this commission to decide, do we want to have a 60-day breathing period to sort through these two offers?
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant a 60-day period to,
As per staff.
as per staff presentation, to allow us to sort through these matters in front of us, both the RestorCap and this anonymous offer.
So just to clarify, I'm going to amend the proposed LOI because it's due to expire in the next week.
Yes.
And so we're going to extend it for around 60 days. I'm going to time it with our Urban Renewal Commission meetings, but the intent is to be able to have due diligence time for all parties to provide much more specificity as to what's actually proposed.
Yes, and that includes the answers to those specific questions I posed, understanding the RestorCap business model. At what point do they gain income? What is the sources of their income? What is their authority in selecting a potential developer when the time comes? So we have a motion before us. I'll comment no further. If you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sean Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Abstain.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Vice Chair Doug Neely,
Yes.
and Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Do we have other items of business? Anything to
Sir,
approve?
other
Yeah,
than
minutes.
minutes, just minutes,
Other than the minutes?
nothing else.
And
Oh, go ahead. Under communications, we have an
Okay, well,
update,
let
but
me-
we'll get there.
do we need a motion to approve the prior minutes submitted? We do. Do I have a
Yes.
motion?
I'd like to move we approve the minutes of April 6th, April 20th, May 4th, and May 16th, 2020.
Second.
Sorry. I was getting into the two.
We have a motion and abundant seconds. I have a vote.
I'm going to pick Commissioner Smith as the second. Commissioner Sean Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Vice Chair Doug Neely,
Yes.
and Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
On to communications. City manager.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Economic Development Manager Graham to provide an update on 10th and Main, which was brought up earlier concerning the status of that project.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I've talked with the developer for the project, and I've asked them to come before the commission to give a full update on their project as soon as possible, and they agreed to do that. And so we're trying to schedule a meeting right now, so that can happen.
Mr. Graham, is this still Willamette Stone?
A moment. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Smith and Commissioner McGriff.
So it has not fallen apart, this project?
As it stands tonight, right now, the agreement that we all have, well, not we, but the commission has signed, they have to close on May 20th, May 2023. That's when they have to close on the deal. In the meantime, they're responsible for identifying a tenant.
Which they have not done yet?
They had two.
Not had. Do they have one now?
They do not have one to my knowledge.
Commissioner,
That's all we need to know. We don't know that we need to report now.
Commissioner McGriff.
Thank you, Chair. I was just asking Mr. Graham for clarification if we're still, still working with Willamette Stone. That was,
Yes, that's the developer for the
Right.
project, yes.
okay.
Right.
So they have until the date you cited, some May 2023, to take action or forego whatever earnest monies they put down, and then there'd be no agreement in effect.
Exactly, that's exactly how it works.
Okay.
Have they, Mr. Chair, have they, I understand that they did do a pre-app, but that it may be over a year old.
That's exactly right, so they may have to update it.
Anything further from my co-commissioners? Commissioner? No.
I guess staff was proposing to ask them to come and have a discussion about where they're at, the difficulties in this climate. If the Urban Renewal Commission's not interested, please let me know.
I think you need to turn your mic on.
Shoot, sorry. If the commission's not interested in them presenting, please let me know, and we'll tell them to stand down and we'll write out the contract as written.
Commissioner Smith?
So, I mean, if they have a deadline and they meet the obligations that this commission has asked for by those deadlines, there's no need to meet. I mean, if they're going to come basically to tell us the world has changed and they want another chance after we've given many, many, and this is something that we've said before on this commission, how many chances do we give? How many chances we give? And they just want another one. So if they're coming back for another chance and start over again, I want to remind this commission, here we go again.
Well, we haven't gone anywhere
We
yet.
don't need a report to say, oh, it's all, we don't have a tenant, we don't have anything that we've asked for, we still have the same deadline. We just got to change things now.
We were asked to provide an update on the project. I don't know another way to provide an update
No, I
other than
would,
engage.
I would appreciate getting an update on the project. It doesn't have to be a fancy presentation, we can just have a conversation.
I agree.
But we should be having fairly regular communications with them and not just sort of it goes into the black hole and we don't hear anything.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the other commissioners?
I agree that we should have them come.
Okay, understood. Commissioner Cross?
Yes,
I
I think
agree.
we should.
Well, we have a consensus that want that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other business from the commission or from staff?
That was the only update we had tonight.
I have a question.
Question from Commissioner McGriff.
Yes, I'd like to know how soon we're going to be able to get started on the quiet zone.
I'll try and find that information. That project is being run by Oregon Department of Transportation Rail. So at this point, I don't think we've been contacted as to the project manager nor the timeline, but I will check with Public Works and make sure that that's accurate.
Well, could you tell them we're want to get started yesterday?
Anything further from commission members or staff? Seeing nothing, I'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.